Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined by my blue co-host, Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
But not blue-haired, because that would...
That's teal.
That's teal.
But I will say
blue.
It should have been blue twin co-host.
Yeah, we are. We're blue twins today. We did not plan it.
No,
at all.
But somehow this ends up happening, I would say. It happens often, but the funny thing is, like, we started working more remotely lately because of all the stuff we have going on, and you're getting ready to move.
Yes.
Which is always so much fun. So
crazy.
We don't get to see each other in the same outfits as much. But when I dress pretty and I'm not in a concert t-shirt and like sweat shorts, we tend to match.
But also, I think, like, with working remotely, we've also not been getting dressed up quite as often.
That's
either,
what I'm saying.
Which is really great.
Yeah. When I'm at home, it's like concert t-shirt or like a tank top, because we've already hit the 100 plus. And at least when I go out, it feels like it's 100 plus out here in Phoenix already.
Yeah, I feel like it's good though. You know, I worked at a place about 20 years ago. It was in LA, and the owner of this place said that he didn't believe people could work from home. Like, obviously this was pre-pandemic or whatever, but there's also the thought that you have to get dressed up to get work done. I know a lot of people are like that too. Like, they have to get dressed up to get work done. I don't feel I'm like that. Do you feel you're like that?
Well, I don't, but I think that's a very good point. Like, okay, so one thing we know, just to scratch the whole thing, is that the pandemic has definitely changed the rules.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
I would not hold this person to the same standards.
Expectations in January 2020 and expectations here in like June 2022, are totally different.
Right.
Totally, because the pandemic has changed the way we look at things. And now, with that being said, I do think that there are some people that need that routine. They need that break to make it very clear to them. And that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But like you just said, in my scenario, I find that I do way better when I don't have to spend all that time getting ready, doing my hair, putting on my makeup, like picking out an outfit that, you know, looks okay and will make me through the weather here in Phoenix, because I like to complain about it all summer long.
Those are a lot of steps that you have to go through in the morning. Right.
And so that's why I like just, throw the hair up in a messy bun, throw on the t-shirt, and professional from the waist up, and we are good.
See, sometimes I am like that, especially when I'm doing these Instagram reels with the little 1 minute things for parents.
I feel like you kind of almost
I feel like I have to. I have to get dressed up, because although I love you all, and I'm sure people would accept me without makeup. In fact, maybe that's a good point. Like, maybe we don't need makeup to be in public.
There is that thing going around social media. It's been going on for a few months, of the whole no makeup selfies, no makeup things. Jennifer Aniston did it. I think Cameron Diaz did it. A few other celebrities.
And I know a lot of other people are doing it too.
Yeah.
I wonder, and this is probably the fear in me as well. Do you feel like people are less professional when they're not made up? Well, I mean, obviously we're talking about women here, because men don't wear makeup.
I know, right?
But do you feel like that's a block for a lot of people in society?
You know, okay, so with me personally, I don't think anything of anybody else not wearing makeup, not being professional. Mm-hmm. But what I do think is that everybody thinks that about me.
Really? Well, I think everybody thinks that about me too.
Right. Like, I don't judge other people that way.
I know.
But I think that everybody judges me that way.
Yeah.
Like another good point for therapy Bree needs to bring up.
Well, an example is Glennon Doyle. Glennon Doyle often doesn't wear makeup, and I think the world of her and her expertise, because it's always about, for me, it's being considered smart. I don't know why. That's a block for me. I always want to make sure that, like, I want to be known as the person who has the reliable information, and it's supported, and it's not like flim flam. I don't know.
And you feel like it could be viewed as flim flam when you're not all dressed up and ready to go.
I guess so. It's weird. I can't even explain it. And I didn't even know why
I don't think
it
you're alone in
existed
this.
before I just talked about it right now.
Okay, I don't think you're alone in this. So people in podcast land, we actually need to hear from you about this. Yeah. So give us a shout back on social media. Shoot us an email at hello@noguiltmom. Send us a review.
Send us a review.
Write us a review.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Could we beg you all for a second, by the way?
Oh yes, we are really stepping it up. We really want to make sure that this No Guilt Mom podcast gets out to everybody.
If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, if you are listening right now, can you share with everyone you know? Like, share with the person who takes your order in the Starbucks drive-thru. Share with your hairstylist. Share with the checkout person at the supermarket.
Share with your Uber driver next Friday.
Share with the receptionist when you're taking your kid for that cavity that they should not have if they had just listened to you by brushing their teeth.
Or that's very, very specific there.
That's very specific.
I would say even share like the next time you go out and you are talking to another fellow parent, be like, hey, I know these really fun gals that do a pretty awesome podcast, because we know you love it. We know you do. We hope that you love it as much as we do.
Share, share, share. We are trying to build the podcast. We want to get it to, as Bree said, as many people as possible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
definitely.
Please share and please let us know you're out there too. We love you.
But we know you're definitely going to want to share this episode because it is going to be hands down one of my top 10 favorites.
Katie Kimball is a blogger, 2-time TEDx speaker, former teacher, and mom of 4 kids who founded the Kids Cook Real Food e-course, recommended by the Wall Street Journal in 2020 as the best online cooking class for kids. Her blog, Kitchen Stewardship, helps families stay healthy without going crazy, and she's on a mission to connect families around healthy food, raise critical thinking skills, using the lab of curiosity that is the kitchen, and grow the kids' meal revolution where every child learns to cook. He has a tip in here that is going to totally change the game on how you teach your kids how to cook. She was just phenomenal. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Katie.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
Welcome, Katie, to the No Guilt Mom podcast. We are so excited to have you here and talk about kids and food.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Thanks for having me.
I've been following you for a while, and especially your program about teaching kids how to cook. And this is such an issue for so many parents because I don't know about like you, Bree. I do know about you actually and how you're going to respond to this question, because all my kids really want to make is mac and cheese. And it's so hard to get them past that point. So can you first tell us a little bit about you and how you got to teaching kids how to cook?
Yeah, I started my online life in 2009, actually teaching moms how to stay healthy without going crazy, like how to save on budget, save on time, what's healthy and what's not. And I kept hearing a really similar story from a lot of my readers. And they would say, Katie, I really do want to be healthy. I really want this, but I was never even taught to cook. Right? Like that's sort of the bane of our generation is we pretty much got skipped. And so it was a big hurdle to climb. And I thought, we're not comfortable in the kitchen. We're probably not teaching our kids because you don't teach something you're not comfortable with.
Right.
Which means in 20 years, the kids are going to have the same phrase. Oh, I wish I could be healthier, but my mom never taught me to cook. So that was one of my motivations for sure for starting the Kids Cook Real Food e-course. The other one was in my own life. I have 4 kids, and every kid you add, like the busier life gets, the more you forget to slow down and teach kids what really matters. And so when my oldest Paul was 10 and in 4th grade, he had to do a demonstration speech for his class. And I talked him into making homemade guacamole. And he does the whole thing where he thwacks the pit out with the chef's knife.
I love that trick.
All the adults were like, like this 10-year-old with a chef's knife. And so I was super proud, right? I love raising the bar. But I also thought in my own head, had my own sort of crisis of like, oh my gosh, this is the only thing he knows how to make though. I don't, the guacamole is great, but I don't think it's going to sustain him all the way to adulthood because I'd started really well with him but every child that was added made it harder for me to get him into the kitchen. So I thought, okay, like we got to pull back. I'm halfway through my parenting with him. He's going to leave in 8 years. It's time to get all these kids well trained in the kitchen. And it really made a difference in our family too, that we can all help out now. It takes a little bit off my plate as well.
Hey, all, Bree here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org.
Exactly.
Totally, because it's really teaching kids the life skill, as you said. I mean, I could so identify with not being like taught how to cook. My grandma actually used to bring over like prepared dishes for us and drop them at our house. And that's what we ate during the week. So like my mom didn't cook either. My dad didn't cook. And then when I was raised off kid cuisine, remember those?
That was like a perk in my house.
But it's so interesting when you're first learning how to cook, because I eventually taught myself off of like Food Network and Rachel Ray and Alton Brown. Like that's really how I learned. And when you learn those skills, it doesn't become so complicated in the kitchen anymore. But figuring out what skills you need to learn, like where do you even start with kids?
I feel like when we have talked about this with a lot of our followers, and I'm sure you get this all the time, Katie, a lot of parents, they're like, well, yeah, but my kid's going to chop their fingers off, or they're not going to know how to do anything. And then it's going to take me twice as long to teach them. And so there's all these reasons not to. And it just, they can't get over that hump.
Well, you're right, Bree, in the roadblock, right? Knives, fire, they're slow, they're messy. And so step one is we have to like shift our brains into the right motivation, right? Like, I think it's really, because you're not going to stick with something if you don't believe it's important. So we've got to future cast a little bit and think about, all right, what do we want our kids to be doing between the ages of 18 and 22? Do we want them floundering about, figuring out how to care for themselves? Or do we want them like meeting the man or woman of their dreams, pursuing a career, giving back to the world, right? So for me, that's one of my motivations. And the other big one is that when we see, then this was a surprise to me, when we see kids learning these authentic skills, their confidence increases so much. And parent after parent will tell me that their kids feel confident in the kitchen and it affects other areas of their life, right? So they're more confident. So that's where I think we've got to start, is like, yes, there are some hurdles to get over, but if our brain is in the right spot, it's really important. And then Joanne, you hit on the other starting point, which is skills, not recipes. It's not about oh my goodness, I have to let my child help for the whole muffin recipe or the whole soup recipe, or teach them how to do the whole thing. I love just breaking these recipes down into little steps. So muffins are like 7 different skills. So what can you do with a 3-year-old? We'll teach them how to measure the teaspoon of cinnamon, right? What can you do with the 7-year-old who can read? Teach them how to follow the recipe. And it's just building these little tiny building blocks one at a time makes it more doable for parents in their head, right? Like, yes, okay, Katie, I can teach my kid to measure a teaspoon of cinnamon. I can do that today, even if I can't do the whole muffin recipe.
You're right. That does, like, it makes it way less intimidating.
Yeah.
It does. And it's funny because you don't realize the skills that go into making a recipe. Like just when you said measure a teaspoonful, when I started really watching my kids when they like to bake a lot, but watching them and they're measuring and they have like this huge mounded teaspoonful. And I'm like, wait, there's a skill here that you can teach. You need to like level that thing off.
And quite honestly, leveling is so satisfying.
It is.
It's so satisfying to like slide the rest of the flour off the top there.
It is. It is very satisfying. But yeah, you don't even realize how many skills. I mean, just when you say that muffins are 7 skills, it's pretty intense. I've started doing the meat skills with kids with like
really
handling chicken. And that's a really hard thing for kids to do because they don't like to touch that thing.
I was going to say, wait a minute. So to get my daughter to touch, and I taught her this trick because this helped me when I first had to start cooking, which by the way, lit the microwave on fire once, blew up a glass container. I was banned from the kitchen as a kid. So my cooking skills when I first got into and out of college was anything boxed, like stovetop and like a frozen chicken fillet. I was like, wow, that's gourmet.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I had to first start touching chicken, we did gloves.
Oh,
So you don't do that?
no.
Like that's the
Wash our
only way.
hands.
That's the only way I can get my daughter to touch it.
No.
It's with gloves.
Yeah. So teaching them separate skills first, Katie, and then what really comes next? Because it seems such a far like distance to really bridge from actually being self-sufficient in the kitchen to just teaching a few skills. So like, how does that progression happen?
Yeah, at Kids Cook Real Food, our process is a 3-step process, and it's kind of loosely based on the Montessori system. And so it's just demonstrate, guide, and coach to independence. And so demonstrating means you really should show them yourself before you hand them the knife or the measuring spoon, right? Or turn on the oven. And then the guide step is something that a lot of parents miss. And this is, it really vaults people to success. It vaults the kids to success. And so this entails having your hand over the child's hand or their hand over yours, doing things like cracking an egg, using the knife, stirring something that's a little stiff. Kids can see the motions you make, but they can't tell how much pressure you're using. So that's one of the reasons where kids have trouble cracking eggs, or they'll stir and like pop the oatmeal from the granola bar recipe all over the counter, right?
Yeah.
And so that guide step is really, really, really nice, obviously for little kids, but even sometimes for big kids, if they're using a chef's knife, say, hey, let me put my hand over yours so we can get this motion almost like a dance. And then it's coaching to independence. So it's looking for those opportunities where, okay, we have built the skill of peeling. I am going to have my child peel carrots and cucumbers at any opportunity I can for the next week, right? And then to really get them to independence, part of it is just letting go bit by bit, like allowing them to fail, allowing them to like be in the playground of the kitchen or the science lab of the kitchen, and working kind of like, watch me do it with me, do it yourself. And really by seven, kids are totally capable of making a whole recipe themselves.
Yeah, I like, okay, first what you said there, it's funny because what you said is the Montessori system is something that is referred to in the teaching profession as guided learning, that I do, we do, you do. But the step of having the hand over, I didn't think about that. And now looking back to my experience in the kitchen with my son, I'm like, oh, this is why he doesn't get it, because he doesn't know the pressure that's involved with the stirring. So that is a tip I'm going to use right now.
Well, I feel like that's gold.
It's
like that was something that is so simple. And it's the second you said it was like, of course, that makes the pieces are now fitting together.
Yeah. And if your listeners have little ones, like 2 and 3 years old, that's so good. I mean, imagine if your 2 and 3-year-old climbs up and puts his or her hand on top of your hand dozens of times. This is why we have 4-year-olds in our program who crack a dozen eggs like a boss.
It's amazing. Well, I know one of the biggest concerns I think of many parents of kids in the kitchen is knives. What age do you think would be good to start using like the sharp chef's knife? And like what precautions do you need to put in place when you're teaching your kids these skills?
We do start knives at age 2, sometimes 18 months, but I mean, you went right to sharp chef's knife. That's not fair.
Okay.
Okay, well, tell me the progression.
Yeah, because that's not where you start. So it's a beautiful thing to put just a butter knife, a dinner knife, right, in the hands of our 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. They feel like hot stuff. Okay, so that they're loving it. That gives them the motivation to come back and want to help in the kitchen. And they can cut things like cooked carrots, right, bananas, melon, like anything that's soft. They can begin to learn to cut. And the trick there is that we teach our 2-year-olds the exact same techniques and names of how to hold the food, how to hold the knife, as we do with the chef's knife, right? So we kind of teach them to respect that knife as if it's sharp. That helps everyone have the confidence, right? You're 2, you're 3, you're 4, you're 5, you're using that butter knife. Man, by the time kids are 5 and 6, parents are going, maybe I can trust them with a paring knife, which is why I said it's not fair to jump to the chef's knife, because you got to start with a little knife for little hands, start with that paring knife. And then it's really, really important to choose the right food. Okay. We're not setting our kids up for success if we give them a paring knife and an apple or an onion or, something that's just really requires that chef's knife. But a paring knife is great for zucchini, celery, cucumbers, kind of those foods that are narrow enough. They're kind of that medium solid density, and they can do a lot with a paring knife. And again, you're reminding them to use habits like stand your fingers up like a soldier, hey, out of the way. We have a lot of fun phrases in our class so that we build a common vocabulary between parents and kids. And then they have that trust. You've seen the kid at 7 and 8 using that paring knife. I remember my 3rd child, John, he's 10 now. He was 4 when I had that moment and like really taught all my kids to cook for the summer. And when he was 7, I think, he said, Mom, I think I'm ready to try the chef's knife, right? So for him, because he desired it, 7 was the summer of chef's knife. I have a 7-year-old now. He's still working on the paring knife. So every child is really different, but that's the progression, and just teaching that respect for the sharp knife, and also realizing that it's probably not going to be a hospital trip. It's just going to be a Band-Aid, right? If something were to go south, and that Band-Aid experience is going to help them respect the sharpness of the knife quite a bit more in the future.
I agree with that. I had a Band-Aid experience. It was an urgent care trip, but it was only because it was a finger wound and it was bleeding a lot. Finger wounds tend to bleed a lot.
I was waiting for this story. I remember this story. Are you talking about the lemonade stand?
Yeah, the lemonade stand. When my daughter was 7, she and actually Bray's daughter, they decided to have a lemonade stand in front of our house at a yard sale. And she went in to cut lemons in the kitchen, and she had been using a knife for like a while. I trusted her with the knife. Yeah. She was doing a really great job, but got distracted for 1 second and sliced right into her finger. And those fingers, they bleed a lot. And I was like, urgent care. And they're like, it's fine. But those accidents do happen. And you know what? She has never cut herself with a knife since then. She has respected the sharpness of that knife.
And she still uses a knife. Like, it wasn't enough to scare her off of doing that. Yeah. That's the important thing.
Have you ever had anything like that with your kids where they now have an experience where they now respect it?
We have. For the first few years I did this, I was always able to say, oh, we've never had a knife accident. And then, of course, that ended. My oldest, Paul, walked into the office once with the wide eyes and he goes, Mom, I just cut myself. I was like, what? What happened? And I think it was, he had poked his palm with the tip. I said, all right, well, what were you doing? Well, he was using a dollar store paring knife with like a 2 or 3 inch blade on this massive, like 1-pounder apple. I said, dude, that's the wrong knife for the wrong food, right? You know better than that. And so it was like super, super easy. I know my daughter has probably nicked herself about 2 times, but she's same as your daughter. She moves too fast and gets distracted a little bit. But again, in our e-course, that's why we set up these phrases like keep your fingers, hey, out of the way, stand up like a soldier. We have all these reminders, food moves, knife down, knife moves, eyes down, just to make sure that kids are staying focused. And that's that coaching to independence too, is that we should stay close for the first little while.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy healthy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
That's an important phrase. Knife move. What was it? Knife moves eyes down.
Food moves knife down. So when
Food
you're
moves-
moving the food to the bowl, the knife is on the cutting board. And then if the knife is moving, your eyes are down.
Man, I'm hearing all these things that I do really badly in the kitchen.
I'm like,
My poor kids. No wonder they're like, I don't cook.
I think my husband wants me to use some of these phrases because he's always says like I give him a heart attack anytime I use a knife because I tend to be really distractible.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I have never cut myself with a knife and he's cut himself twice. Just to put that on the record.
I would say yes. So Joanne was doing this first in her household between the two of us. She had her kids doing cooking skills at home. And then she was telling me about it and how well that was working out, that she was actually letting them kind of like cook some meals during the week. And wow, that sounded amazing. So I tried that with my kids once they were in like upper elementary. And I have to say, it has been phenomenal. It is so nice. And we have a rule in our house too, that if you're the one who cooks, you're not the one who does dishes. So that also helps motivate them to be like, yeah, I'll cook. And then you also try to remind them like you can learn how to cook your favorite things. But then like you said, that can turn into grilled cheese every night. Or like my daughter went through a fettuccine Alfredo phase for like a whole month. Oh my gosh.
So that's a question I have for you, Katie, is because we in our house, we had our kids pick a meal once a week, but getting them off of the grilled cheese and tomato soup or like the mac and cheese, at least they didn't do the box mac and cheese. They did like from scratch mac and cheese, but it was almost impossible that we had to switch back to me and my husband each like sharing the time with them and like showing them some skills. When you're thinking about your meals from the week in your house and trying to make them so that everyone is eating healthy, like making it healthy,
Healthier than mac and cheese.
like not, what do you do? Like, how do you manage that?
Isn't it funny that mac and cheese and grilled cheese, we call them comfort foods, but
Yeah.
they're also like comfortable to make.
Yeah.
So when you're in your comfort zone, it kind of makes sense depending on kids' personalities that they might not be naturally stretchable. You know, like my daughter loves looking up new recipes. She would make a new recipe every time she cooked if she had that much time and energy. But not every kid is like that. Some kids like that comfort zone. And so often we just need to change that routine. So when my kids took over one meal a week for a whole year, they made pizza every Sunday. They got really good, they memorized that homemade recipe. We loved it. And then the second year I said, okay, now you can make pizza every other week. And the weeks in between, you need to choose something different, right? Something new. And I think it's important to let them know that you're there for them. So let's say they choose a new recipe or they choose a recipe that they've seen you make, but it's still outside their comfort zone because they haven't actually done it. Just sit down and talk through it. Right? Let's read all these ingredients. Hey, tell me, do you know where all of these are? Read the instructions. And let's talk about tell me what this, instruction number 3, step 3, what does this mean? What are you going to do in the kitchen? Where is the pot? And I just think that kind of settles kids' brains out of sort of that stress response and back into a comfort zone. And so we can talk about that. And we talked too about balanced meals. So even when they were making pizza, they needed to create a salad or some kind of side vegetable just so that it's balanced. And I think if you create that structure and model that, it's pretty easy for kids to follow without a battle.
Yeah, the structure is funny because like you need to have a veggie or you need to have a side. And so bam, out come the frozen veggies, pop them in the microwave. And I'm like, okay, well, we're working with this here.
It's a start.
It's a start.
It's a move it's a move in the general right direction.
But I want to pinpoint on what you said that you let them cook their own dishes for a year, because I think like that it gets so much in my head that I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids are doing this for so long now. It's been 6 weeks and they're cooking the same food. So hearing you say a year makes me feel a lot better.
We had a real purpose for that, honestly, because I wanted to volunteer with high school youth group at church. And my husband said, honey, that isn't dinner time. It's going to be a disaster. I'm not the most like time organized person. So he's like, you're going to have like a 3/4 done dinner. You're going to throw it on the table. You're going to leave in a huff. And then I'm stuck with what's left. And I said, okay. And that's when I talked to Paul and Leah. They were 9 and 12 at the time. And I said, would you guys be willing to take Sunday dinner so that I can do this act of service? And so that was the thing, is I was actually out of the house. So I couldn't even help. That's kind of why we just had the same thing to make sure that they could do it easily and keep with that routine.
Do you and your husband switch off on making dinner?
He is such a good husband. A couple of years ago, he said, honey, you're stressed. What can I do? He said, I'm going to make tacos every Wednesday. Okay, cool. See, apparently we have some systems that I don't even think about. But now, yeah, he makes 2 meals a week.
I think that's so helpful.
That's good. Yeah. That was one thing that was stressing me out, deciding all the meals. And so me and my husband, now we split it up where he does the grocery shopping and I'm totally fine with the cooking. As long as he goes to that grocery store and does everything, I'm like, we're good. Yeah. He gets what I need. And then he does a lot of the cleanup too. So that's nice as well. Any way you could split it up so that the work's not all on us.
Are there any other benefits that you feel like you've seen or felt with having your kids take on more cooking at home? Like we've talked about them being able to cook, which is a big deal. Because again, Bree did bad things in the kitchen. So I went to college, didn't know how to do my laundry or cook. Laundry is a whole different story. But so there's a lot of things it sounds like they can learn. What are some other things besides just learning the life skills of cooking?
I started out from such a practical standpoint. I want them to know how to do this. I need a little help in the kitchen, right? We're looking for that balance and stress relief for mom. And at Kids Cook Real Food, we call them our 3 C's, these benefits: connection, confidence, and creativity. Because we have connection with our food, that helps kids to eat better and have a better relationship with food. We have connection with our family. You know, the screens are off, you're in the kitchen, you're working toward a common goal together. And that's sometimes when I hear the best stories. Confidence, I touched on a little bit, just the fact if you can nourish another human being, kids know that's a real adult skill. They feel so good about that. And the creativity can't be understated. Cooking is this amazing outlet where you can both have that creative work with your hands. That's really good for kids on the spectrum, right? Like ADHD and autism, like working with their hands and getting into the dough or the vegetables, but also that artistic flavor of creativity. For kids to be able to take a recipe that an adult wrote and shift the seasonings, right? Shift the way they cook it and make it their own, or to just make up something as they build enough skills. That is just, it's so powerful and it's such a creative force. So it's really pretty awesome to watch.
There's so many benefits of cooking. Like I love it personally, and being able to give that back to my kids. And I love how you're now teaching all kids how to do it, and parents as well, the kids of the 80s and 90s who skipped those cooking skills.
And you know what? Not everyone loves to cook though.
No,
that is a huge sticking point. I've got a lot of moms come to me and say, I hate cooking. No part of me wants to spend time teaching my kid. That's okay. But if we believe that healthy food is important, the only way to get it, especially on a budget, is to figure out how to cook. And so props to all the moms who are using our course and who are saying like, this is not my thing, but I'm going to figure it out. And I really want this for my kids.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I agree that, to get a healthy food and healthy diet, you definitely need to have some basics in the kitchen, but it doesn't have to take 2 or 3 hours in the kitchen every time. It could be like really simple things. And I think that's something that I'm so glad that you're getting across, and that moms need to hear more of, that it doesn't need to be like Pinterest recipes every night,
but it's a process.
It is totally a process. So what are you looking forward to right now, Katie?
we are setting up a Life Skills Now summer camp. It's an amazing free program. Joanna is one of our camp leaders and teaching life skills from the kitchen to things like finances and entrepreneurship. So that is going to be an amazing event.
I'm really excited for it. Well, thank you, Katie, so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you really soon.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh, that tip that Katie had about putting her hands, like having her kids put their hands on hers when she's cooking. Like, I never thought of that before.
I never did either. And I have to tell you, I used it over this weekend. My daughter was trying to iron something, but I totally did that because of Katie mentioning it.
Yes.
I'm like, that is brilliant.
Yeah, having kids do chores like ironing and having kids cook in the kitchen, that's a big part of Yield the Work, which we teach in Calm and Happy Parenting.
Yes. Okay. You're the one who introduced this concept to me of kids cooking. And I have to say, it has been a game changer in our household. It has helped take so much stress off of my shoulders every night after finishing work and then having to figure out what we're going to cook. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to meal plan for the whole week because people get to pick their stuff. And I know my kids are learning life skills and they're not going to be like me going off to college, not knowing how to work anything but a microwave.
Yes, it does. It builds a lot of confidence in kids. Like my 13-year-old, she takes over most of her meals, but with my 8-year-old, it's still a lot of we do where I'm in the kitchen with him. And so like he cooks some mean macaroni and cheese and it's not Kraft, it's actually with real cheese, but he can do all the steps himself. And I just busy myself in the kitchen so that I'm there if he needs me, but he's doing the work himself. So we're like on that last part of we do where he is taking it over.
It's taking a lot of stress off your shoulders.
It's taken a lot of stress off. And I think that's what giving more responsibilities to our kids and to our family does. We're all in this together as a family. It is not all on mom. And that is one thing that I think if every family was able to do this and embrace it, oh my gosh, can you imagine what we could all accomplish as moms and as women? We would have so much free brain space.
We would have free brain space. We would have free time, and we would also have that confidence and take away some of that anxiety we have that our kids are not going to have life skills and they're going to end up in a van down by the river.
The van down by the river.
Because that's just my thing. That's where I go. I feel like Katie's episode really brought out that whole Yield the Work, which is our last section of Calm and Happy Parenting. It is huge. And if you guys haven't seen or heard of Calm and Happy Parenting, we have got a link in the show notes. And if you liked what Katie had to say, you're going to love Calm and Happy Parenting.
You are. So until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by. Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday who was pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.